He only wanted a cup of coffee. That's all. But when Ethan Monroe pushed open the door to that tiny Portland cafe, he stumbled into a reality he wasn't prepared for. Across the crowded room behind the counter stood Olivia, the woman he had once promised forever to, and then lost. But that wasn't what made his heart slam against his ribs. No, it was the toddler playing in the corner. A little boy with Ethan's unmistakable green eyes and the same unruly shock of hair he had seen in the mirror every morning of his life. How could this be possible? Had fate really thrown him back into a life he thought he had left behind? Or was it already too late to rewrite the ending he once destroyed, as the air thickened with old regrets and brand new fears? Ethan had a choice: walk away and leave the past buried, or step forward and face a truth that could shatter everything or heal it. What would you have done if you walked into a cafe and came face to face with the life you never knew you had lost? Stay with us. You won't believe how this story unfolds. The autumn wind curled through the streets of Seattle, scattering amber leaves like forgotten memories across the damp sidewalks. Ethan Carter, the man whose meticulousness had earned him both a corner office at Meridian Consulting and a bulletproof reputation, was running late. It wasn't like him, not at all, but fate, as it often does, had its own plans. When Ethan arrived at his usual cafe, he found the windows papered over a stark notice taped to the door: closed for renovations. His heartbeat quickened. With only 20 minutes until his high-stakes meeting with a potential international client, caffeine wasn't a want, it was a necessity. He scanned the street, eyes catching on a small cafe he'd never noticed before. The daily grind, its golden lights flickered warmly against the gray October sky. Without a second thought, Ethan jaywalked through a gap in traffic and pushed through the cafe door. The rich scent of coffee and fresh pastries immediately swallowing him whole. He barely noticed the hum of conversation, the tap of laptop keys, or the clink of ceramic cups. Instead, he queued in line, thumbing through emails, mentally rehearsing his opening pitch. Routine, controlled, safe. But the moment he glanced up at the counter, everything shattered. There she was, Olivia Bennett, the woman he hadn't seen, hadn't dared to think about in 3 long years. His ex-wife, wearing a simple green apron, her chestnut hair pulled back casually. Her name tag catching the light: Olivia. She looked different, yet heartbreakingly familiar: freckles scattered across her nose, a small nervous dimple appearing. When she smiled politely at a customer, Ethan's breath caught. His mind stumbled over itself. Should he run? Should he pretend not to see her? Should he confront the past he'd buried so carefully? Before he could move, fate twisted the knife deeper. Out of the corner of his eye, Ethan caught a flash of movement in the play area by the window. A toddler, maybe a year and a half old, wobbling on chubby legs, laughing freely. The boy had Ethan's hair, the same wild dark cowlick that never laid flat. Ethan's chest tightened. It couldn't be, could it? When the child turned to giggle at an older woman cleaning a nearby table. Ethan's world tilted on its axis. Those eyes, that rare piercing shade of green, the same almond shape he saw in the mirror every morning. Impossible. Is it just coincidence? His mind screamed, or something more. His feet moved without permission. The line nudged forward, bringing him face to face with the woman who had once promised him forever. Olivia looked up from the register, her scripted greeting dying on her lips, her face drained of color, the pen in her hand clattering onto the counter. For one agonizing moment, neither of them spoke. The entire room faded into a dull hum, like they were trapped in a vacuum of everything unsaid. "Ethan," she finally whispered, as if saying his name might break the fragile reality they were standing in. His voice caught in his throat. I just needed coffee. My usual place is closed," he said lamely, desperately grasping for something normal, something safe. But the ground beneath him was anything but. A thought jabbed through his fogged mind. Why is she working here? And why didn't she tell me I had a son? As Ethan stumbled backward, bumping into a customer carrying a latte, scalding coffee sloshed onto his designer shoes, a scene of chaos unfolded. Napkins spilled to the floor. Startled patrons glanced over, murmuring. The older woman, watching the child clearly, a co-worker, narrowed her eyes, piecing together the fragments far quicker than Ethan could. Embarrassed and shaken, Ethan mumbled an apology and awkwardly bent to pick up the napkins, barely aware of his actions. Maybe you should sit down, Olivia said, her voice trembling, but steady enough to guide him toward an empty table. Numbly, Ethan obeyed, casting sidelong glances at the toddler, stacking colorful blocks near the play area, occasionally shooting bright-eyed smiles toward Olivia and unknowingly toward him. Could this child really be his? If so, why had she kept such a monumental secret? When Olivia set a cup of black coffee, one sugar exactly as he used to like it, in front of him, the flood of memories became unbearable. His name is Mason, Olivia said, her voice barely more than a whisper. Mason Carter. He's 16 months old. Ethan stared at her, the walls he had built so carefully around himself crumbling with every heartbeat. And yes, she continued, meeting his gaze fully for the first time, her own eyes shimmering with unshed tears. He's yours. The cafe around them seemed to blur. For a moment, Ethan couldn't tell whether he was breathing or drowning. How could she not tell me? How many first words, first steps, first laughs had I missed? The questions burned his throat, but before he could force them out, Mason let out a delighted squeal, drawing his attention. That sound, pure, innocent, full of life, broke something inside Ethan. How would you feel if you discovered a secret like this hidden from you for over a year? Would you be angry, devastated, or something even deeper? Something no words could name. I'm so sorry to interrupt the story here, but I promise the next part will take you even deeper into the emotional storm brewing between Ethan, Olivia, and Mason. Before we continue, let me ask you, if you were Ethan, what would be the very first thing you would do after hearing Olivia's confession? Do you believe Olivia had the right to keep Mason's existence a secret? Also, tell me, where are you watching from? We would love to know, and if you're enjoying the story so far, please tap that heart and like this video to support us. Shall we dive into the next part? Ethan sat motionless, the weight of Olivia's confession sinking into his bones like cold rain. Across the cafe, Mason, oblivious to the whirlwind of adult emotions, toppled a tower of colorful blocks and laughed, the sound slicing through the heavy silence like sunlight through a storm cloud. For a moment, Ethan could barely hear over the roar of questions in his mind. Why? How could she think I didn't deserve to know? Was I really so easy to shut out of their lives? His voice was raw when he finally spoke. Why didn't you tell me, Olivia? I had a right to know about him. Olivia's fingers curled tightly around her coffee cup, knuckles white. I tried, Ethan. You were in Singapore, remember? Chasing your career dreams. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed the years of loneliness buried behind her words. Every time I called, your assistant said you were too busy. Even when you finally answered, you didn't hear me. You were so excited about extending your stay. Ethan swallowed hard. His mind flashed back to that year, the endless meetings, the late-night client dinners, the sense of triumph as he climbed the corporate ladder. How much had he missed while he was congratulating himself? But you could have emailed me, he said, struggling to keep his voice low. Texted something. Olivia's mouth trembled. And say what? Hey, surprise, you're going to be a father. Over a screen, you were a world away, Ethan. Emotionally and physically, I couldn't do it. The words stung because deep down, Ethan knew there was truth in them. He had buried the pain of their failed marriage under layers of ambition and duty, but the betrayal still burned sharp and fresh before he could respond. Mason, sensing the rising tension, toddled over on unsteady legs. He clutched a worn plush dinosaur in one tiny hand and reached the other out toward Ethan with a bright, unguarded smile. And in that instant, everything else fell away. Ethan knelt instinctively, letting Mason press the soft toy into his hand. Their fingers brushed, and Ethan felt it. A spark, a connection so deep, so undeniable, it rattled his soul. How could a child he had never met feel so familiar? Was it too late to become part of this little boy's world, or had the door already closed forever? As Ethan wrestled with this crushing uncertainty, Olivia's voice cut through his thoughts. If you want, she began hesitantly, my shift ends at 3. Maybe we could talk. Really talk. It wasn't a promise. It wasn't forgiveness. It was a fragile, tentative bridge extended across the chasm between them. Ethan nodded, words useless against the lump rising in his throat. The hours crawled by. Ethan tried to sit through his meeting, delivering polished statistics and charming reassurances, but his mind kept slipping back to Mason's tiny hand in his. To Olivia's haunted expression, he checked the time compulsively, heart thudding louder with every passing minute. At 2:45 p.m., he returned to the daily grind, choosing an outdoor table where he could watch through the window without overwhelming them. Olivia moved with practiced efficiency behind the counter, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Mason, now awake and full of energy, chased after a crumpled napkin blown by the breeze, laughing with a sound so pure it squeezed Ethan's heart. He realized he had already missed so much. First steps, first words, first scraped knees. Would Mason ever truly forgive him for that absence? Could he even begin to forgive himself? At precisely 3 o'clock, Olivia emerged from the cafe. Mason strapped snugly into a stroller, his dinosaur toy clutched protectively against his chest. Olivia had changed out of her uniform, wearing jeans and a soft sweater the color of stormy seas. She looked up searching, and when her eyes found Ethan's for a fleeting second, something flickered there. Fear, hope, maybe both. "There's a park a few blocks away," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Mason loves the sandbox." They walked in strained silence, the only sounds the rumble of stroller wheels on uneven sidewalks and Mason's cheerful babbling. Could he really just slip into their lives like nothing had happened? Could a man who had prioritized boardrooms and balance sheets learn how to catch up on the milestones he had missed? Arriving at the park, Olivia unbuckled Mason, who immediately wriggled free and bolted toward the sandbox with triumphant glee. Ethan stood awkwardly beside Olivia, hands shoved deep into his pockets until she handed him a plastic shovel without looking at him. "Mason loves building towers," she said, "but he loves knocking them down even more." Something in her tone, a mixture of pride and resignation, made Ethan wonder, had she built walls around her heart too, only to watch them topple every time she thought she was safe? Tentatively, Ethan dropped to the sand, beginning to pile a small mound with Mason's enthusiastic help. The toddler shrieked in delight and demolished the mound with both hands, giggling hysterically. Ethan laughed, a real unguarded laugh for the first time in longer than he could remember. Was this how happiness sneaked back into your life? Not through grand victories, but through tiny, unexpected moments. As the golden afternoon light bathed the park in warmth, Ethan realized one chilling truth. This moment could slip away as quickly as it had arrived unless he fought for it. I'm so sorry to pause here, but trust me, the most emotional and unexpected moments are just ahead. Before we dive deeper, let me ask you, if you were Olivia, would you trust Ethan again after everything that happened? What do you think Mason will feel as he gets to know his father for the first time? Also, let us know where you're watching from. We love hearing from all over the world. And if this story has touched your heart so far, please like and tap the heart to support us. Are you ready to see what happens next? As the sun dipped low, painting the playground in hues of amber and rose, Ethan sat on the edge of the sandbox, watching Mason build another wobbly tower. The boy's face, so full of determination, mirrored Ethan's own childhood expressions, those same deep green eyes that stubborn set to his jaw. Could there be any doubt left? Mason was his son in blood and spirit. And yet a single question kept gnawing at Ethan. Was love enough to erase years of absence? Or would Mason always see him as a stranger who arrived too late? Olivia sat quietly beside him, her gaze soft but unreadable. She seemed to be waiting, but for what? An apology? A plan A promise? Or maybe all three? Gathering his courage, Ethan turned to her. "Olivia, I don't want to be a visitor in his life. I want to be his father. I know I have no right to ask after everything, but could we try? Could we find a way?" Olivia's fingers played with a loose thread on her jeans, her voice low when she answered. "It's not just about you and Mason, Ethan. It's about us too. The trust we lost. It doesn't just come back overnight." Her words hung between them, heavy with truth. Ethan nodded slowly. "I understand I don't expect forgiveness right away, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Mason deserves to know he's wanted, that he's loved." The vulnerability in his voice, raw, unpolished, made Olivia look at him differently, as if seeing someone new emerging from the man she once knew. What if Olivia hesitated, her next words trembling with uncertainty? What if we started small play dates, dinners, maybe some afternoons together, see how it goes? Ethan's heart lifted, cautious but hopeful. I would love that. Mason, unaware of the monumental decision being made over his sandbox kingdom, marched proudly toward them with a fistful of sand and dropped it into Ethan's lap, laughing as if bestowing a priceless gift. Ethan laughed too, brushing the sand off his jeans. But the meaning wasn't lost on him. Sometimes love didn't arrive in grand gestures. Sometimes it came grain by grain, built slowly, patiently. Could Ethan rebuild trust the same way weeks passed? True to her word, Olivia let Ethan spend time with Mason, at first supervised park visits, then longer afternoons, sometimes even a whole day, when she worked late shifts at the cafe. Ethan learned Mason's favorite songs, the silly way he pronounced dinosaur names, the deep belly laugh he reserved for silly faces. Each moment was a thread, weaving Ethan deeper into Mason's world. But with every joyful memory, a shadow loomed larger. Would this fragile new bond survive when life threw its inevitable storms? One rainy afternoon, Ethan and Olivia sat at the cafe's corner table, while Mason napped upstairs. They sipped coffee, the air between them thick with unspoken questions. Finally, Olivia broke the silence. "There's something I didn't tell you earlier," she said quietly. "When I found out I was pregnant, I was scared. Not just because you were gone, but because I didn't believe I could raise him alone. I almost left Portland. I almost gave up." Ethan's chest tightened painfully. What would have happened if she had disappeared completely, if he had never walked into that cafe that fateful day? "What stopped you?" he asked, voice rough. Olivia smiled faintly. "Mason. When I heard his heartbeat for the first time, I knew I had to stay. I had to fight, even if it meant doing it all alone." Ethan reached across the table, covering her hand with his. "You didn't fail him, Olivia. You gave him everything. You gave us a second chance." Her eyes shimmered with tears, but she squeezed his hand back. The months that followed were not without struggle. There were misunderstandings, clashes over parenting styles, moments when old wounds reopened. But every fight ended with the same unspoken vow: we will not give up this time. Slowly, Ethan shifted his life around Mason and Olivia, stepping back from the endless chase of corporate deals, trading boardrooms for backyard picnics, long commutes for bedtime stories, and one crisp evening under a starlit Oregon sky. Ethan surprised Olivia by kneeling not with a diamond ring, but with something far more precious. A small wooden box hand-carved with Mason's initials, inside 2 keys. "One for you," Ethan said, voice trembling, "and one for Mason. A key to a new home, a new life together. No expectations, no pressure, just an invitation to be a family." For a heartbeat, Olivia said nothing. Her hands shook as she picked up the keys. Then she looked at Mason, who clapped delightedly at the shiny object, unaware of the meaning. Finally, Olivia smiled, a smile full of tears and laughter and hope. "We'd like that very much," she whispered. And just like that, the years of pain and regret melted into something new, a beginning, a real beginning. I'm so sorry for pausing here, but I promise the emotions only get deeper from here. Let me ask you, if you were Olivia, would you have accepted Ethan's offer so easily after everything? Do you believe people can truly change when given a second chance? Also, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means the world to us. Please like, tap the heart, and share this video if you believe in the power of second chances. And one more thing. What do you think of this story? Comment no 3 if you loved it, no 1 if you're not satisfied yet, and no 2 if you think it was just okay. We can't wait to hear from you.